On paper, Sephonie sounds like the kind of game that I would love. After all, I'm a huge fan of adventures set on mysterious islands. I love when games mix disparate genres. There's a cool science theme at its core, and the story isn't afraid to go in some wild directions that you won't see coming. What's more, this is the newest title from publisher Analgesic Productions, who recently came up with a fantastic role-playing game called Anodyne 2: Return to Dust. All of this should have added up to a game that I couldn't help but gush over, yet here we are at the start of a very different review. What happened? Well, you're gonna have to find out now as I talk through my many disappointments in this review of Sephonie. Told through a series of convoluted flashbacks, this is the story of Amy Lim, Ryu Hayashi, and Ingwen Lin, a trio of scientists from 3 different parts of the world that have been sent to a mysterious island off the coast of Taiwan. They're there to analyze the island's rare species using a new and largely untested technology known as Onyx. But what should have been a simple assignment is immediately derailed when their boat crashes onto the coast and one of the scientists comes down with a new type of illness. Yeah, something weird is definitely going on, and it's up to this trio to work together in order to survive long enough to find out what's going on. Now, a lot of this game involves us exploring the small island and using the Onyx technology to analyze and link the rare species that we run into, both on the surface and through a massive cavern system that's inside of what appears to be a hollow mountain. Most of the game has us running, jumping, climbing, and using parkour to explore new parts of the island and link up all of the new life forms. The good news is that the island isn't after our heroes, and everything is largely non-violent. Though you will need to watch your step, because you don't need to be a world-famous scientist to know that falling down a bottomless pit is bad for your health. When you're not running across the wall to get to the next platform, you'll be analyzing the new species through a simple yet addictive puzzle game. It's basically a play on the Tetris or Puyo Puyo formula, where we manually place puzzle pieces on a bunch of differently sized boards in hopes of matching at least 3 colors. The trick is they only have so much room, so you'll need to place the limited number of pieces carefully so that you can match as many light colors as you can before wiping the board. If you match too few, you'll end up losing a little bit of your health. The goal is to keep matching the colors and wiping the board until you've successfully linked the species, which may end up taking a few rounds to complete. Well, not exactly difficult. I do like that the game is constantly finding ways of challenging you with these puzzle segments. As we try to link bigger and more impressive creatures, you'll have to contend with obstacles like rocks, walls, and characters that move around the board, destroying the blocks that you've laid down. You'll also have to put up with challenging boss puzzles, like the one where you can only place pieces on spots that are lit up by the cavern's bugs. This not only forces you to play the game differently, but it also makes earning the required number of connections a lot tougher. As you'll discover, linking these new and rare species isn't just for research purposes, because you'll actually learn valuable information that can be used on the island. For example, this is how we learn to parkour across the side of a wall. Later species will give our heroes the ability to dash in the air, and even grapple using the many floating creatures found in and out of the caves. This is how we gain access to the new parts of the island, as well as pick up more information about the strange but captivating story. Look, the truth is, I have very little bad to say about the storytelling in Sephonie. The way it's presented is a little strange, and the way it jumps through time is a little convoluted, but I ultimately appreciated the leaps that it takes. This is a story that isn't afraid to spend a few minutes talking about how everything fits together, and I appreciate the amount of work that went into making this a truly unique and interesting story. Let me tell you, the game makes some wild swings, and I personally feel that it pays off in a big way. And had Sephonie been nothing more than the story and the puzzle segments, I likely would have been here recommending it as a brand new indie gem. Unfortunately, I can't do that, because so much of this game relies on the exploration and platforming, which is by far the weakest aspect of the game. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. The third-person gameplay sucks. It's atrocious. It's some of the worst 3D platforming I've experienced in decades. I wish that was hyperbole, but it's not. When I tell you that this is a game about climbing up platforms and running on the walls, you probably assume that pulling off these moves will be easy and fun. Nope. This isn't Mirror's Edge, but rather a 3D game that gets just about everything wrong. Your parkour moves are so limited that they almost never save you from a simple misstep. The run button will make you sprint in the direction your character is facing, which isn't always the way you want to run. The loose gameplay makes it too easy to miss a floating platform. The stage designs are specifically made to have you fall to your death dozens upon dozens of times before finding the right path. The fact that you'll constantly go into picture-taking mode because of the crummy button layout. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, the camera is unruly and sometimes has a mind of its own, making it even harder for you to run on the walls, make a perfect jump, or just get around like a normal video game character. The game feels like a mid-90s PlayStation game made by somebody who's working with 3D environments for the very first time, and failing. I hate the way this game controls. I'm also not a big fan of the way it looks. From the opening cinema, I couldn't help but feel like something was off. The narrator was an undefined blob, which made me wonder if maybe the texture just hadn't loaded correctly. Unfortunately, that's just the way it looks. While I like the colorful surface and the beach areas, so much of this game takes place in the dark and boring caverns. The most visually interesting parts of the game involve the trio reliving individual moments of their lives. These inspired bits are completely ruined by the awful gameplay. Best looking part of Sephonie are the cool characters that you have to link with, though most of that time is spent solving puzzles. For at least a few hours, it was those puzzles that helped keep me invested in the game. While I hated playing the platforming parts, I had a lot of fun matching colors and placing the puzzle pieces. But even that started to get old and repetitive after a while. And that's the point when Sephonie became a real slog. With a squandered premise and awful gameplay, this is bound to be one of the most disappointing games of the year. Sephonie proves yet again that you need more than just a great setup and compelling location to make a great game. Not even the cool science elements, puzzle mini-games, and lengthy story are enough to make up for the awful gameplay and bland presentation. This is, without a doubt, one of the worst playing 3D platformers I've experienced, featuring loose controls, an unruly camera, and slippery platforms. There are some truly compelling concepts and ideas hidden away in a game that almost dares you to play to the end. Don't do it. Sephonie is not worth your time. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What game has disappointed you recently? Oh boy, there's so many to choose from, so I can't wait to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back tomorrow with a very special episode of Game Over, the early years. What makes it so special, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to coincide with the announcement of a new physical release from Retrobit Publishing. What is it? Well, you're just going to have to find out at 9 a.m. Pacific. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,